Iran is a country with the population of Turkey, the natural resources of Canada, and the wages of Vietnam. So with sanctions being lifted, it has huge potential, but which way will it go? Charles, what are Iran's economic possibilities moving forward?
There are two policy choices as far as I see it. Is to try and limit foreign investment into direct investment. They desperately want it into the oil and gas sector. They know that that's been underinvested for many, many years. They know they need the Western technology, skills to be able to access some of the energy resources in the Persian Gulf. They could limit it to that. And I suspect that that would also limit Iran's growth. It would secure a good 3%. If, however, they open up more and allow foreigners to get more involved in banking, financial services, accountancy, retail, telecoms, there is already some foreign investment in the telecom sector, but that I think could enable Iran to be growing at 7% or more. It looks like a country that's underpriced by the global economy, which makes sense. It's been cut off from the global economy, but that underpricing should end with sanctions coming off.
And how can Russia be seen as a model for Iran?
Russia's had two phases. Most investors would talk about two phases, which is a big opening up in the 90s, but with more stability in the early 2000s, a period when the economy did extremely well. And in more recent years has tended to be a little bit more conservative, a little bit more closed, welcoming foreign direct investment only to certain sectors, or mainly into certain sectors. That, I think, has been less good for the Russian growth model.
Investors are watching Iran very closely, but as there are a few bilateral trade agreements in place, surely they'll have to tread very carefully.
The American investors are going to have to be more careful. They're given certain areas they're allowed to be invested in, sovereign bonds, I think airlines. Boeing will be able to sell its planes again to the Iranians. It's going to be Europeans who find it much easier. Sanctions are coming off in many more sectors. There's a lot of European interest. Daimler-Benz has been there, Mercedes has been there. The French car manufacturers, who used to be massive, are all eager to get re-involved, as well as European energy companies, Japanese investors, the Chinese. There's been an awful lot of businesses sniffing around in the last 12 months.
So considering all this, where are the opportunities?
First, foremost, they've got some challenges in the banking system, so I don't think that's going to be as interesting to most foreign investors. There's definitely going to be interest on the energy side. Iran was one of the first countries ever to produce oil. It created BP. But I would have thought areas like retail, technology, are going to also be areas that people are going to get very excited by.
So as Iran is about to be welcomed back to the markets, what will this do to prices per barrel?
We're not sure. With 500,000 to 1 million barrels, they're talking about 1 million barrels extra a year next year. So the more conservative estimates say it'll only be 500,000. In itself, the Saudis are overproducing by at least 2 million, according to some estimates. So the 500,000 to 1 million from Iran, it may not be the biggest deal. Short term, people are already using that as an excuse to assume, to justify oil at $40, $45. Iran's coming back on stream soon, so prices should be lower. I couldn't tell you whether oil guys are saying that whether we justify another $5 or $10 off already, or whether that's already in the price. I'm not sure anyone knows.
Finally, if Iran is found to not be complying with the nuclear deal, sanctions will quickly be reimposed. So if this happens, where would that leave investors?
The negotiators are saying in Iran that a number of institutions are coming off the sanctions list. There could be sanctions reimposed in certain areas, such as oil exports again, but that wouldn't necessarily impact your investments in, if you've done any, in specific institutions, like the banks, for example. And the argument is that if sanctions were reimposed, there would be a 90-day or 180-day period to give investors time to exit their involvement. The question is, do you think Iran would do that? If it's made the effort to negotiate that it's done over the last 2 years, are they going to want to step back? For what benefit? Their economy suffered a great deal under sanctions. That's not good for regime stability.